Troubleshooting tip for cold process soap makers, part 1. These two pieces of soap were made exactly with the same recipe in exactly the same way, but they're very different. This particular piece came out perfect. This is a whipped soap, so these will float in the bathtub, and we have our little puppy dog faces piped right on the top. This bar of soap is rock hard, and it's been cured for several months now, so it's perfectly fine. This bar of soap, on the other hand, the bottom of it is soft. This was made exactly the same way. And even if I take a knife into it, we can just slice it off. That is not normal for a fully cured bar of soap. And so, if we come up with these two results, what happened that made this one fall apart and crumble? Now, if your recipe was completely the same and your conditions were completely the same, you might feel really frustrated because something, in fact, had to make these two recipes very different. Well, in this particular case, all the ingredients that we used were fresh, including the lye. The lye came from this batch, was brand new, and it was only about a week old. The lye that was used with this batch had been sitting on the shelf for about a year, and although it was closed tightly, when time passes, the lye can sort of deteriorate and it becomes inactive. So even though we used the exact same amount of lye, it wasn't really at the same power that the lye would be for what the recipe called for. This is why it's super important to make sure all of your ingredients are as fresh as possible, including the lye. Even though it's not a food chemical or something that you would consider needing to be fresh for food, the chemicals themselves also need to be as fresh as possible, so that you won't end up with a good solid bar and a lemon that makes marks all over the table because it's too soft. We could still use this, by the way. I will personally use this and it will dissolve real fast, and it'll probably last for about 3 days.